Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Today's panel is going to be best practical steps for employee referral programs and employee resource groups. My name is John Lees, and I will be the moderator for this panel. I am the Senior Talent Acquisition Manager at Serco, and we find that this industry, these programs are critical to be able to provide good resources to both veterans and military spouses, especially those who are transitioning from the military into workforce. It's imperative that we have these strong programs in place to be able to reach out and offer our services as employers to this community. So I'd like to go through real quick and introduce our panel, and they're going to talk about all these great subjects. We have some fantastic questions lined up. We also look forward to questions from the audience as well. This is a learning opportunity for everybody in this industry, so we want to take full advantage of that, right? So first I'd like to introduce Justin Henderson. Justin?
Thanks, John. Justin Henderson here at Recruit Military. I'm a former Marine myself. I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserves, motor transport operator, automatic rifleman. And for the last 17 years, I've been helping companies hire military talent. So really excited. I'm actually at our MBA Veterans Career Conference today here in Atlanta. So it's just a fun-filled day of helping veterans find employment.
Great. Thank you so much. Next is Susan. Susan, hello.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan DeWitt-Christ. I'm an Air Force veteran coming to you from Denver, Colorado today. I've got over 15 years of economic development experience focusing on veteran and military spouse employment with the Department of Defense, Department of Veterans Affairs, and the state of Florida. And I'm currently a diversity and inclusion consultant with Oracle, where I manage the Oracle Veteran Internship Program, which provides veterans and military spouse candidates the opportunity to transition into our corporate culture here at Oracle from military or military family life. So I'm excited to be here and discuss our topics today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. RJ, how are you?
Hey, thanks, John. RJ Williams. I'm a 30-plus year veteran in the cable industry. I work for Charter Communications. And I call it my passion job, if you will, is the Veterans BRG Business Resource Group co-chair. So my role is to really help veterans transition from civilian to, or from military to civilian life, and just make sure that's a successful transition for them.
Fantastic. Greg, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, John. My name is Greg Renz. I'm the Military and Veteran Program Lead here in Talent Acquisition Mission Systems for Northrop Grumman. Prior to Northrop Grumman, I spent 26 years in the Air National Guard. When I transitioned out of the Air National Guard, I was in the Guard. I was a full-time guardsman. When I transitioned out, I was fortunate enough to become part of the Northrop Grumman team. I spent about 20 years in recruiting in the military. So coming over here, it was a great transition over to this role and doing this to continue to help our transitioning service members find their next roles. Also, I am the McLean, Virginia chapter chair for our Veritas ERG here locally. So very excited to be on the panel today and share some of our best practices and that throughout. So thanks again, John. Appreciate it.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, as I forgot to mention, I'm a veteran myself. I'm a 30-year Navy veteran, a retired Command Master Chief. And in my role, both in the military and now obviously outside of the military, this is my passion. This is so very important to be able to provide a resource for veterans, military spouses, and this is just a great opportunity for us all to get together and have some great conversations. So welcome, everybody, and I'd like to kick it off with a thought-provoking question, I think, for Justin. Justin, employer referral programs do not need to break the bank. What are some innovative ways that companies with smaller budgets, such as small businesses, can motivate employees to recommend veterans and military spouses to explore opportunities at a certain company?
Oh, that's a great question. And, you know, what I always say, I say activate the field is my point is you need to know who your veterans are in your organization and get with them and talk to them about not just what made them come to the organization, but what other military experience they think is a good fit. Because if you then put in your job descriptions hey, 5 to 7 years of experience in the industry or relevant military experience, and you list that military, that's going to show to the veterans transitioning out that you are serious about hiring military. So I found that's really good. Activating the field, understanding what that transferable skill set is coming into your company, and those other veterans will then see that and help bring their friends along with you.
Yeah, I love that. That's clearly defining that in the job description, that those years of military experience correlate to potentially even a degree or experience that relates to that job. I love that, especially if it's clearly spelled out in the job description. Very good.
Yep.
Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. I think it's important that organizations have a place for veterans and military spouses to land. So with our careers page, we have a veteran and military spouse landing page that, when those referrals do happen, there's somewhere for them to go. We also foster a sense of belonging with our veteran employee resource group, MAVEN, the Military Affiliated Veteran Employee Network. And we offer social media recognition through Slack. We offer swag to those who have gone above and beyond to help welcome candidates as well as new employees.
Fantastic. RJ, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, first let me say I echo and agree with everything that Justin and Susan have shared. The only thing I would add to what they've shared is what we do at Charter with our Veterans Business Resource Group is we partner with the hiring manager and the recruiter. And by doing that, what we're doing is really trying to make sure, being a prior veteran myself, and you touched on it, John, there are certain languages and things that I know from being prior military that are translatable to certain skill sets. So what I try to do is really decode the resume and say, hey, when they say this is what that means. Or when they mention this is what their experience is. And that helps them get seen, because sometimes the resume may not translate to the actual job rec and they may not get seen.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. Companies that have prior military folks on staff, especially within human resources or talent acquisition, to be able to help tell that story of that resume, because as we know, the transitioning assistance programs don't always advise veterans or military spouses, for that matter, on what a real resume should look like and how do you transfer that in to the specific industry that you're applying to. So to be able to interpret that, I think on the front end of the job description as well as in the resume, it's a critical skill to be able to do that. Wonderful, thank you. So RJ, I'm going to bring you this question. What are some of the best practices to market and advertise an employee referral program at a company?
Yeah, so one of the things, or maybe a couple of things we do here at Charter that has given us success. Number one is the Veterans BRG. You may hear ERG, we say BRG, but same thing. So if your organization has something that specifically targets military, as Charter does, that absolutely helps. And just a lot of promotion internally on the intranet. We try to get that word out and just share we're a veteran-friendly company. And then social media and obviously word of mouth goes a long way. So those are some of the practices that we try to weave into, making sure we get the word out about the referral program and who we are.
I love that. And I always, especially at Serco, we rely upon senior leadership. We use opportunities such as town halls and newsletters, and we backfill just like a good CMC would. They're backfilling the boss on what's going on. So advising senior leadership to say, hey, talk up the referral program at every endeavor you can. They obviously have the ear of the employees in the company, and they set the drumbeat for what's going on. So for them to be able to talk about that and kind of get a plug in for your referral programs, that we're looking for veterans, we're looking for spouses, use your networks to bring in people into our company. We have a great culture, so let's talk about that. I find that pays so much dividends to have senior leadership kind of talk about that. Greg, what do you feel about that?
Well, I agree on both of those comments that you both have made. Excellent opportunities to increase some of your advertising for the employee referral program. One of the things that I've seen our folks do here locally that has been very beneficial is get out there in the community, get out there and talk to the folks. We had one particular instance where we had a bunch of coffee mugs and we went out into the manufacturing floors and we handed out coffee mugs with some information on how to refer people, hold those education classes on teaching people how to refer. And when you say how to refer, you also are talking and teaching them on not types of talent, but really qualification of talent to refer, and making sure and how important it is that the folks that you're referring meet the qualifications that are necessary for the jobs that you're looking for. So there's a little bit of internal education on the referral program that I think is important as well, to make sure that that's even more successful in marketing and advertising that.
Yeah, I think, companies, both big and small, in terms of instructions or policies that are easily, displayed, whether it's on a company intranet or on some document, even billboards in the break rooms, to talk about the referral processes. A lot of companies offer obviously bonuses for referral programs. Not everybody's driven by money, but that's obviously a factor that could definitely help turn the tide with that. And I think advertisement of that in those venues are very helpful as well. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and kind of talk away from the referral program, but how about the ERG groups within companies? It's a stated fact that strong military and veteran and spouse cultures have employees that are like-minded, right? So everybody knows that. Companies have created employee resource groups, or they call them other names, but it's an avenue for folks to get together to talk about like-minded issues like that. So, Greg, how important is it for veteran employees to have access to these types of groups, do you think?
Well, that's a great question, John. It's extremely important for veterans to have access to an ERG. And here at Northrop, we have 13 ERGs, and Veritas being the ERG focused on veterans and their families. One of the important parts of that is folks can be, they don't have to be veterans to join the ERG. So I think part of having that openness and inclusion is important. Having access to the ERGs is important because, in the military, you obviously have a sense of belonging, and a transitioning service member has that sense of belonging. They have that camaraderie, that esprit de corps that they have with their units. And oftentimes it's going to be tough transitioning to a company. No matter what the company is, it's going to be different. You're going to have a percentage of folks that are veterans, and you're going to have a whole percentage that aren't veterans, and you've been used to working with military members. So having access to that group to help them help you as a new transitioning person navigate through some of the company culture, some of the policy, some of kind of the elements of what that looks like. The other thing on why it's so important for ERGs and veterans to have access to that is simple exposure. A lot of times we're working with veterans that have had a whole nother career, and now they're transitioning over and kind of starting over in this new company. And so they're starting over in this new culture. They might be in a manager role, but they haven't spent the entire time at the company. So this gives them an opportunity to expand their nucleus, not just within their coworkers that they work with side by side each day. This expands to where an ERG has participants from all across the company and different leadership levels. And it's very important for people to take advantage of that so that they can get introduced to other areas of the company, other folks, other pieces, which also directly relate to, I know a person might be great for this job and I met him through our ERG and that type of thing. So opportunities are also another big piece for that as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Justin, I'm going to pull an audible because Ross had a great question in the chat. So I'm going to kind of, if you can, weave in your answer to the previous question, which was how important is it for veteran employees to have access to ERGs? How else can you build veteran ERGs when most of the members are remote or on client sites?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the importance of an ERG is, I think it's already been said, but culturally, having a safe space, leaving that military culture and that belief to the left, to the right, that you're protected and taken care of, and you're going to do likewise for your partners. Having that safe space to go talk to somebody and someone that's going to help you learn and grow. On the remote side, I think that's a challenge across anybody that has a lot of. I mean, my company's probably 95% remote. We have a small office, but we started going remote in 2018, and when COVID hit, we just said heck with it, and everybody went. So what we find, it's a lot of, you have to be very purposeful in your interactions. You have to be very purposeful in your meetings, and you have to, I would think, to build a remote group, that it would have to be these purposeful team virtual meetings, virtual bingo, virtual whatever, right? Army Navy game coming up, right? Like, I think that's how you do it. It's through engagement mostly.
We started to do chapters as well too. So chapters in strategic areas, and then we started leveraging, base-wide events, whether it was Toys for Tots or food drives and things of that nature. So those chapters where the remote employees were, we tried to kind of group them together based on the locations with that. So anything you could do to promote that camaraderie, that's a difference maker often, a lot of times.
Yeah, if the remote employees are local like that, I think that's great. Yeah, that's smart.
Wonderful. Susan, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so I totally agree that sense of belonging is so important, and the ERGs really foster that sense of belonging. And there's also the networking element, allowing veterans to have that chance to network with other veterans within the organization. I know at Oracle, it's a huge company, so the importance of internal networking can't be stressed enough. Our members of our Maven ERG are really great about stepping up and taking those opportunities to provide informational interviews, coffee chats, make introductions for our members so that they feel more connected to the organization, and they don't feel like they've gotten lost in the shuffle. So that sense of belonging is so key.
That's fantastic, especially Oracle, Susan. So in terms of newly hired veterans, how does your ERG assist with bringing them into the fold so they can continue mission? Tell us about the importance of this, and how does mentorship and onboarding take place?
Absolutely. So as part of our Maven ERG, we have the Veterans Guide-On program where new members are matched with a mentor. The program assists every one of our Oracle Veteran Internship Program interns, which is 40 a year. And we're very deliberate about making a mentor/mentee match. We do that veteran to veteran, military spouse to military spouse, keeping in mind branch of service as well as career background and goals. And they make for very effective mentor-mentee relationships. The mentors help with internal networking, onboarding, and served as a sounding board for our veteran interns throughout their 12 weeks. And our Veteran Guide-On program is also open to newly hired full-time employees within their first year at Oracle, not just our interns. So the challenge for us is very familiar. Veterans are hesitant to ask for help. They would rather face challenges on their own and in silence because they don't want to appear that they can't do it or they're weak by asking for help. So newly hired veterans seek out mentors where it's okay to ask for help. So someone else mentioned that our ERG is a safe space, and I would say that that's absolutely true.
No, we look at it as like we deputize members of the ERG and mentors as almost like onboarding professionals in HR. They assist, they help, they advise. They're often the ones that get a wind of a problem of somebody's email not working, and they're able to kind of facilitate that and be able to help that new person along with that. That's fantastic. Because most military members, when you go to a new place, you go through an in-doc period, right? So you miss that when you move into a company, especially ones who recently have transitioned out. Perfect. RJ, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I would underscore something you said, John. You talked about the chapters, and I'll tell you, we really leverage that in that we have a program called Boots on the Ground, and it's basically the same thing you just mentioned. So we look at our membership, we look at our committee leads, where are they at? Can we leverage them where they're at locally to do, whether it's an ice cream social, we'll sometimes do town halls, just whatever we can do to get the word out. And you also mentioned just the importance of the ERG or BRG, and sponsorship is what I really wanted to underscore. We have executive sponsorship just to make sure that we get the right gravity, the right just the right focus on the BRGs and what we're trying to accomplish. And the last thing I'll mention is just a way of just remembering our veterans. We have a program called RED, Remembering the Employee Deployed. And what we're doing there, as employees are deployed, we're just making sure they know we're thinking about them. If that's something as simple as a easy care basket, or just a quick letter, or just something to let them know, hey, we remember you, we're thinking about you. So those are just some of the programs and things we do within the Veterans BRG that just help create that awareness.
I love that. That's fantastic. Greg, I'm very interested to hear how you guys do it, because obviously you're such a large organization.
Well, we have several different pieces. One of the parts is when we assist with newly hired veterans, we have a veteran onboarding piece that the newly hired veteran gets an email, and they come to another element of onboarding that talks to them about. It's put on by our veteran folks here, and they go through and introduce them to Northrop Grumman from a veteran lens, and kind of give them some of those pieces. We talk about TRICARE insurance and talk about some of the supplements and some of the benefits that go with that as well. So for the retired folks that still have that on their family, and how to kind of capitalize on some of those benefits. We discuss military leave and go into, for those serving, we've got about 1,600 folks that are currently serving in the Guard and Reserve here with us. So we have a lot of time that we spend and talk to them about how does that work? How does it work with your military leave policy and doing your weekends and those pieces? So that's extremely important for them to understand that early on and up front. We also have a vet to vet forum where veterans can go in and punch in a question, and it kind of goes out to the ethos of all the veterans out there to say, hey, you know what, how do I do this? Or, you know, I've had folks help, reach out, can you help me file my retirement for the reserves and things like that? How can we help and do that? Also offered it up because there's, I spent many years in recruiting. So I offer up the service to help anybody has their son or daughter interested in joining the military. If you want to ask questions and that type of thing, I can help answer some of those initial questions within that from a background of experience. Another piece I just want to kind of highlight, one of the things that we do in ours, it's a little bit off of this, but it's about that sense of belonging, is we send out coins, challenge coins, to newly hired veterans. We're just getting ready to send out our next set for all the folks that were hired within this last year who have self-identified as a veteran. So it's a DE&I initiative, it's a veteran initiative, talent acquisition initiative. It's a great piece to welcome those newly hired veterans, and another opportunity to introduce them to our ERG community as well.
I love that. That immediately gives them a sense of belonging almost. I love that, and that's what a lot of veterans are looking for as well. Mm-hmm. I also like the it's almost like a veteran helpline. What you were mentioning there, that's something like an IT help desk type thing, but a veteran help desk thing. So that's pretty innovative. There's some very good pointers there. Justin, I have a question for you. Do you think a company's retention is related to a rigorous or an ERG that is very engaged?
I don't know. It's kind of a loaded question, right? Because the retention, I think the thing about military is in the military, you have really good leaders and not so good leaders. And so when you get into corporate America, you're very aware of that, so the ERG may keep you there for a while, but if it's a bad leader, it's a bad leader. You're most likely going to go. But I do think having an active, being aware of who the veterans in your organization are, is really important. So having an active ERG would work and would help, but it only helps so much if the leadership isn't good. Does that make sense? I think
there's a lot of studies now that really track that first year for veterans. Once they especially the transitioned ones who get out and go to work somewhere, do they stay a year in that position? Because sometimes, it's not a good fit culturally, or they were rushed to make a decision because they were afraid of being, the last man standing without a chair, and they were quick to pull the trigger on accepting that offer. And oftentimes it's not, they didn't do enough due diligence for that. So, as from the world of talent acquisition, retention rates are very scrutinized, and we want to make sure we're doing all we can to retain the good quality people that we bring in. I think, in terms of having an active ERG with a good culture that does some of these great initiatives that we've talked about here, that's a difference maker. That has to be a difference maker to be able to have people stay. We're looking for that camaraderie. We're looking for that culture. We're looking for that purpose that continues us to light that fire, right? To be able to support and defend in whatever capacity we can, whether it's at a defense contractor or a commercial place or whatever industry you choose, you want to have that sense of purpose. I really find that to be a big difference maker.
Well, when you say about the first year, that's really important too. We just covered this, and it's, you're in the military, used to go at 100 miles an hour, and you're used to being promoted every 2 years or so. And so when you get into that first civilian job, having an active ERG can kind of say, hey, whoa, you're not in the military anymore. You don't need to work 80 hours a week. Hey, it's okay. Go over to your kid's baseball game. I think that's part of what that retention really is having that somebody say, hey, it's okay. You don't need to be in fifth or sixth gear all day, every day. Right. So I could see that helping.
Yeah, fantastic. Susan, what do you think about that in terms of where you're at Oracle?
I agree that the engagement of the ERGs is key. We have over 1,200 members in our Maven ERG, and it is very, very active. So, when you're there, you're offering active support to your members. I serve on the board of Maven as the head of communications, and we focus on several campaigns throughout the year, producing events such as keynote speakers, career development discussions, and service opportunities. And I think that these opportunities for our members to engage foster that sense of belonging, and I believe greatly that impacts retention for sure.
Okay. Now, you mentioned education and educating the employees on how to refer military veterans to come work to the company and how to educate ERGs. Is there any special added way that you could think of that would enhance that?
Sure. Veterans tend to come forward and usually have some affiliation with outside organizations where we find our candidates. So we do partner with our employees and engage with nonprofits such as 50 Strong, 4 Block, the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, and others to facilitate our referral processes.
Wonderful. Greg, very interested to hear what your point is on educating employees on how to refer the veterans and how to advise them into joining the ERGs.
So part of it on the referral portion of it, what we do is, a lot of this was kind of mentioned earlier from a perspective of referrals to get out there, get in the communities, have the executive sponsors and get that. I think one of the pieces too that is important to highlight is the content of what you're offering. They have a lot of lunch and learns that they do here, and the content within that, whether it's a person that is coming to speak about their service and what they did and their piece and what that kind of means to them, or it's an employee or leader that's giving their perspective on how they went through the talent pipeline here at Northrop Grumman and how they got to the position they got to with their military experience and how that kind of went in. Those elements play factors in how to refer folks and how to bring them into the company and in that part of it. Another way too is just, I think it's important for people to understand the actual process. And you can't really go over the process enough because I don't know, from an advertising perspective, people need to hear it 7 times. But when you look at it from a process, you just need to make it very easy, whether that's going to be something simple to do is handshake cards, quick and easy handshake cards that people can grab and go at any time, have in their pocket, maybe a business card that says, hey, we'd like you to refer to the company. Here's how you do it. Some instructions on the back and that type of stuff. I think that's extremely important. And then, help kind of, we talked a little bit about this and I can't remember what question it was, but when we were talking about highlighting the type of military talent and helping translate that, any amount of work you can do in the crosswalk element is going to be extremely important. We're looking for, 11 Bravos, 88 Mikes. We're looking for that. If you see that within there, that's going to help you out tremendously because that's the hardest part. In a lot of times, it's really the piece because when the hiring manager gets the resume and they look at that and they might not be able to decipher that because they're not military, but they don't understand that importance. So anything you can do like that, there's a great way to kind of help those referrals within that when you're pulling people in.
Wonderful, wonderful. RJ, what do you think about that in terms of education for the employees?
Extremely important. One of the things, and this is recent here, that Charter has announced is just tuition, debt-free tuition support for not just the veterans, but just the employees in general. So just a way of showing the employee that, hey, we're not only investing in you so that, you know, you can be of more value to yourself, but so that you can be of more value to the organization. And then if I can go back for a second, John, just to underscore the importance of the BRG, I just wanted to share statistically, we see that those that are a part of the BRG or ERG, those that are connected absolutely have longer tenure with the organization. We look at, you know, that first year, 0 to 6 months and 6 months to a year is the toughest. If we can partner and help them with that military to civilian transition in that period there, they become more sticky to the organization. Yes, you'll have organic attrition that happens, but where the BRGs are and the ERGs are associated, they're a sticky employee once they get past, if we can get them past that first year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Justin, I have an added question for you. You know, so what we were exploring is bringing in speakers for our ERG, outside speakers, to come in and kind of talk about special items and special interest things. What do you feel that is beneficial? Because we've kicked that around quite frequently, and I'm just very interested to hear what you have to say about that, if you think that's something that's beneficial.
So speakers that are speaking specifically to the ERG, or yeah.
Yes.
I always believe in it. You know, high performers, people that have transitioned out, have a successful career, to explain how they failed correctly in their transition into the next job. And again, anything that builds that camaraderie and that togetherness is important to us. You know, as veterans, we're always looking for that cultural fit. So I think that's great.
We also talked about, and for those who have companies with, you know, multiple ERGs, in terms of the crossover, like to bring somebody in from the other ERGs to kind of talk, and vice versa. That promotes a lot of that coordination and collaboration that you might not get in your daily day-to-day work, right? So we've explored bringing in folks from the other ERGs to kind of talk about the items and what they're doing. We do a lot with our outside partnerships in terms of you know, our remote employees and things like that, and events and our charters and how we do that. So we want to be able to promote that for our other groups. Does anybody think that that's a big advantage to be able to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's something that we do on a regular basis. We have speakers come in at least quarterly, outside speakers for our veteran ERG, which is 1,200 members. And you're right about the intersectionality between, you know, the veterans that are in your ERG for veterans, but also maybe affiliated with other ERG groups, and bringing those together. So we just did a keynote speaker for Hispanic Heritage Month. So, you know, we do those, like I said, at least quarterly, and they are very impactful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. RJ, do you guys do that as well?
Absolutely. We really do it big on Veterans, the month in November. We have what's called our Super Bowl, if you will, where we vet speakers. We bring a speaker in and we vet them to just make sure they're relatable. We take advantage of the virtual opportunity and have that speaker not only share their experience, but also take questions. And we found a lot of success and a lot of attendance when we've done that.
That's fantastic. You guys are all on my speaker list too, by the way, just so you know. Well, it looks like we're just getting ready to wrap up. I didn't see, we answered some questions. Did anybody see any questions that were noteworthy?
Well, real quick, another important part of this is understanding what the right military background is for your organization. So as a hiring manager, what I tell everybody, hey, if you saw me in uniform at the airport, you'd probably stop by, shake my hand, say hello, thank you for your service, spend 10 minutes with me and leave. You should probably do that when that veteran resume comes across your desk too. And that's how you really learn what the right military experience is for these roles. And the veterans in your organization want to hear about that too, and hear that you're just going to give them a call just because they're a vet and have a conversation. That's going to build engagement too.
Yeah, and I think accessibility.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'd like to just give everybody a quick little moment for a close, if you could. Greg?
Just like to take an opportunity to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here today, and appreciate you joining in. Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Susan?
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as well. And I was starting to say something about accessibility, and our military recruiters within Oracle make that possible so that they're approachable for our referrals and for our military candidates. We have open office hours for both internal and external every week, so that, if anyone has any questions about referrals, and if our military candidates want to have some FaceTime, that's available to them as well.
Wonderful. Great. RJ, closing thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for putting this together. Thanks for moderating, John. Appreciate that. And I'm very passionate about veterans, and I want to see them win. I want to see them succeed. So anything I can do to help in that space, I'm for it.
Great. Justin?
Yeah, again, thank you all for your time today. It was just an honor to be here. I dropped my LinkedIn on the chat too, so if anybody wants to connect and carry on the conversation after this, I'm here and available. Thank you.
That's great. And I want to thank you guys for your comments and your expertise. This is a great panel filled with great experience and information. And I think what really resonates with me is everybody gets it. Everybody understands why this is such a critical thing and how important it is. And this is, well as this be our profession, this is definitely our passion, right?
Absolutely.
And that is so fantastic. And thank you so much.